Is there a way I can take this off? Or I'm just
No, you can just wrap it around, you can go around.
There's a second mic on that, so, yeah, just a little mic. You can put it on your shirt if you'd rather.
Oh, okay. Kind of like holding something. I want to start off with this little story I heard. Hey, here's a friend of mine. Hi, Amanda.
Thanks, Mike.
I just started, so it's a friend I grew up with. This is my notes today. I got a 6-year-old daughter, or a 7-year-old daughter. I want to start off with a story I heard, though. And ended with the punchline. But so there was this girl. She really wanted this necklace she saw. It was this fake pearl necklace, and it only cost like $1.50. But the mom was like, "You can earn it. You can do some chores and get it." So she did everything she could. She found all these chores she could do, and she got enough money. And she went to the store and she bought this cheap pearl necklace, and she wore it every day. Like, she never took it off. She wore it in a bathtub. And, well, actually, that's the only time she didn't wear it, was because it might turn green. But she wore it to sleep and all the time. And after a while, her dad came and put her in bed, and he was like, "Do you love me?" And she said, "Yes, Daddy, I love you." And he said, "Will you give me a pearl necklace?" And she said, "No, I'll give you my favorite Barbie doll. She's got this pink hair and a blue dress. You can have her." And he said, "That's okay." And he kissed her and told her good night. And the next night, the same thing happened. He said, "Do you love me?" And she said, "Yeah." And he said, "Will you give me that pearl necklace?" And she said, "No, you can have another baby doll." And he said, "That's okay, baby." So, I'll end it by telling about that. But I want to say that testimonies are so powerful. We all have a testimony. We might not all be preachers. I'm definitely not a preacher. But we all have a testimony. We all have a story. And they're so powerful because you get to see how God has changed people's lives. It makes me think of Revelation 12:11. It says, "And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives even to death." So my story starts out, I was raised by my parents back here. They did the best they could. They loved me. I never had a doubt in my mind that my parents loved me. And you take that for granted when you're younger. You don't really think much about it, especially when you don't know what other people go through. But after growing up, I realized how much I took my parents for granted. They loved me. And other people experienced a lot of hard, rough things that I never had to go through in that department. But they did the best they could. They raised me in church. They told me about God. I had bedtime prayers, and I got Bibles for Christmas and all that. And we went to church. And my parents tried to protect me and shelter me from certain things that they knew would be harmful to me.
Amen.
And that's something that's hard as a parent. You don't know what to do about sheltering your children. I have an 8-year-old daughter, a 7-year-old daughter. We don't have cable, but it's like when you shelter kids, it makes them curious at the same time. So that's kind of where I was at. But probably about the age of 7 or 8, I remember my mom went inside, I think it was a church, to run some errand, and I was outside in the car by myself. And I was just in thought, as much thought as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old could be in. But I was thinking about Jesus and what he did on the cross, and at that moment, it was just some kind of revelation to me, like, I'm not good enough. I'm not a good person, I knew I had broke God's law, and I knew I needed something else to get to God. And I accepted Jesus as a little kid. And I told my mom, and I got baptized at this church called Temple Baptist Church, and I got a certificate and everything. And I even got involved in youth group, and I got excited about God and stuff. And it seemed like it was a while, but I was thinking about on the way here, I was like, that probably only lasted about 2 years, I guess. That seems like a long time when you're a kid. But when I got to be about 10, 11, especially 12, I started to have a lot of doubts and a lot of tough questions. I started to be curious about the things that I was sheltered from. I started watching a lot of MTV and this media, Satan loves to use this media to mold the culture into his image. He shows you what you think is supposed to be acceptable and all this stuff. So, I've seen in my lifetime, I'm 34, and I've seen the culture just mold and morph along with what the media shows you. And, if families are doing this on TV, well, that must be what families do. And you just kind of slowly evolve and you fit that. And I even seen it happen in my own household, But so I was starting to watch this stuff. And I don't know if any of you guys know who Marilyn Manson is, but he was the guy that when I saw him, I was just like, I want to be like that guy. I don't know why. There was some kind of appeal to what he was doing. He was shocking and edgy, and I always kind of had a drawing to that anyway. I used to watch, sometimes I'd catch these little talk shows where they were interviewing people who were like gothic and dressed in all black, and it's something about that kind of attracted me. And when I seen this guy, I just began to like idolize him. I started, listening to him and buying his albums, and I wanted to be more shocking than that guy. I've always kind of been an extremist. It's either one way or the other. So I was like, if I'm going to be like this guy, I want to be more shocking than him. And he had a CD called Antichrist Superstar, if that gives you any clue to how he is. And so in high school, I started wearing all black, dyed my hair black. I used to have hair, long hair, touched my shoulders. I think God was humbling me a little bit. But I used to have long black hair, black finger. Actually, I almost forgot. So this was me. Both these are me here. I don't know where to put this. But yeah, so this was me, and I'm wearing a pentagram, and piercings everywhere. These are stockings, and so I was just, this was me. This was who I was, and even people would ask me, "Do you think you're ever going to regret those piercings and tattoos?" I was like, "No, this is me. This is my life. This is who I am." And I regret all that now. But yeah, so I started a band with this friend of mine. I was moved to South Georgia. All the stuff kind of, I grew up in Chattanooga, and I liked it, and I got pulled away and moved to this small town, and all these, I thought everybody was a bunch of narrow-minded rednecks, and then I look like this. And so I'm having to live in this place for 8.5 years, and I'm just kind of teenage angst, I got all this stuff going on. And so I start this band with a friend of mine, and we're making this industrial gothic music, and I'm writing lyrics that blaspheme God because I want to be that shocking. It breaks my heart to think about it now, but that's where I was. I didn't believe God. There was doubts that I had, and I remember as a teenager I had a girlfriend, and I would go to youth group just to hang out with her because that was the only way we get to see each other. And afterwards I would question the pastor at the door, and I'd be like, if God gives us these commandments and he says, "Thou shalt not kill and murder the entire world," how do we justify that? And he'd just be like, "Oh, some things we won't know until we get to heaven." It's God's way, and that didn't satisfy me. Actually, it satisfied me in another way. I was like, I stumped the pastor. He doesn't even know what he believes. And I was just, that was my mentality. I'm a skeptic even to this day. And we live in a world full of skeptics. Pastors need to have answers to tough questions because people have tougher questions than that, especially when it comes to evolution and stuff like that. So I encourage pastors to really try to get answers to these tough questions, because this was what was helping my doubts and helping me to get to where I was. And so I was making this music, and I was just going down this road. And I was never an atheist. I was an agnostic for sure. I doubted what was in the church because I just thought it was a bunch of hypocrites, and they don't, everything's wrong. If they don't understand it, it's wrong. Oh, New Age, that's evil. Oh, pentagrams, that's bad. And it's like, when I'm looking into it, I think there's some kind of power in it. I'm like, maybe there's something to it you don't know about. Maybe you're just closed-minded. That was my line of thinking. So even in elementary school, I would check out books at the library about the paranormal. I was real intrigued by the spiritual world, ghosts and aliens and all this stuff, and I was like, there's something out there that science can't explain. So I'm not an atheist, but I was agnostic, and I was definitely a truth seeker. I just thought that Christians were too narrow-minded to look for real truth, and they just kind of were force-fed this book, and they believed it. So I was just using my open mind to expand, and like I said, internet was out, so I was using it, and these movies like The Craft were coming out, and the main characters are 4 hot chicks that do a bunch of witchcraft, and they're, everything's going right for them. They can change the color of their hair, they can make a traffic light change, and I was like, and it made it look so appealing to me. It looked realistic. It didn't look like fantasy cartoons, and so I started like really looking into that stuff, and I think God really held back some of the stuff that I could have seen, because fortunately I never really seen a lot of things that really impressed me, and even in that world I played with Ouija boards, and I went into graveyards and ghost hunting and all this stuff, and I couldn't find answers, so I just decided to drink and smoke my thoughts away. I figured my thoughts were like, if all this life is just, it doesn't matter what you amount to if you just die and rot in the ground. Like, I could become famous, but in the end, if you just forgotten, there's nothing to it. So I was just like, that thought's kind of too depressing, so I was just thinking like, I got one life to live, let's live it up, which to me was just forgetting reality. It was just getting high and drunk all the time. So that began to become my lifestyle. It was just a party animal. Like, people knew that was kind of my reputation. And but so I was living in South Georgia, and I was dealing with all this stuff, but I was reaching rock bottom spiritually. Like, nothing was bringing me satisfaction. Nothing was filling this God-shaped hole in my soul, that I was filling with all these counterfeits. And God sent my cousin to help me move. Me and my dad were moving back to Chattanooga, and my cousin had a pickup truck. He drove all the way 5 hours to help us move in his pickup truck. And before we left, him and my mom were sharing each other's testimony. This was my cousin who I looked up to, and I hadn't seen him in years, and now he's a Christian. Like, this is my cool cousin, and he's a Christian, and I hear him telling his testimony, and I just didn't know what to do with that. But God set this whole thing up where I'm in the truck. It's just me and my cousin in this 5-hour drive, and I'm just me and him in this truck, and he's telling me about this book. He's like, this book, he's like, Christianity is not just a bunch of rules and regulations. He's like, this book has the answers to life in it. He said, I see the answers, and I see miracles happen. I pray to God, and I see that. He's like, just like that magic, the stuff you're trying to look for. He said, this book is like that. He said, he was trying to relate to me. He knew where I was, and he knew that I wouldn't hate God I just didn't believe in God. I just said blasphemous things because I wanted to be shocking, but if I could see some kind of proof, and God sent somebody I looked up to witness to me. I had already pushed away my parents, and thank God my mom never stopped praying for me, and I know that was what did it. But so definitely never stop praying for people's salvation. It is a free will choice, but there is a such thing as intercessory prayer too. And so he's telling me all this stuff, and it's intriguing me because I'm like, it's different than the stuff I'm hearing in church, and I was judging God by church and by Christians. I never truly gave the Bible a chance. I never gave God a chance. I was just judging God, and I hated it when I was judged. So, and I'm thinking, I can't be a hypocrite, so why don't I give this thing a chance? My cousin's telling me things I have no reason to disbelieve the things he's saying. He's seeing miracles happen, and he reads the Bible, and it gives him joy. And so we moved back to Chattanooga, and I just start putting it to the test. I'm in a place where I need to find a job, and I'm staying with my cousins, and they're helping me and my dad get on our feet, and we need to get a job. So I'm looking like this, trying to find a job. And I'm thinking, I'm getting away from, closed-minded redneckville. I can get a job finally wearing my piercings and stuff. And so I started praying to God for it. I'm like, God, I want that job at Hot Topic, the one that's in the mall. That was my dream job. You get to dress the way you want to, wear all the piercings, and it fit my lifestyle. It was all about music, and that was the job I wanted. And I kept turning in applications. I literally Xeroxed my application, gave it to him every day for 10 days, and just to prove, because that's what I always heard: be persistent. It didn't work. The thing is you have to know somebody that works there. Like, there's a bunch of mall rat kids that all want to work there, and when you work there, they look up to you like a celebrity or something. And so you really don't get the job unless you know somebody, and I didn't. You know, I've been gone for 8.5 years. So I had 3 job interviews. All of them, somewhere in the interview, were like, you know, you can't wear all that stuff in your face, right? And I was like, oh, I didn't know you guys discriminate against people with piercings. See ya. And I just walk out. And I can't believe that. Now looking back, like, I just walked out. I guess jobs weren't as hard to come by as they are now, but it got to the point where my cousins were like, had to sit down and talk with me, like, we want to help you get on your feet, you know, and you've turned down 3 job interviews. Maybe, and they knew that I was like seeking into Christianity and stuff too, so they were trying to reach me. They're like, maybe, you know, maybe this stuff in your face is becoming like an idol in your life or something. Maybe God wants you to prove that you can get rid of them or whatever. And I was just like, okay, I gotta get a job. So I go down Gun Barrel Road. I'm just hitting up every place I can, every gas station, all these places I would never want to work. Give them applications. I took out all my piercings. I put on a college shirt, looked nice, and do all this stuff. The last place, none of them, you know, they're all just like, okay, see you later. You know, nothing seemed like promising in any way until I get to Smoky Bones restaurant on Gun Barrel Road. And so I go in there and I fill out my application, and this lady is looking it over, and she looks up and she sees these holes in my lip. She goes, oh, you got lip rings or something? I'm like, yeah, you know, got to take them out, get a job for the man. And she goes, oh, I understand. She's the manager. And she flips out a septum piercing she had in her nose. So I was like, oh, a connection. So she's like, yeah, come back tomorrow. I'll introduce you to my manager. So the next day I came back, she introduced me to the manager, I got the job. So I got this job that I'm hating because every day I got to take my piercings out. I mean, I had a bunch of them. There's like 6 in 1 ear or something. And I had to take all this stuff out, and then afterward put them all back in, and this caused an infection when you touch them and put them in and out and all that stuff, and I'm just like hating this job. And I started talking to this lady who got me the job, and I said, I really want to work at Hot Topic, you know? She's like, oh, my best friend's the manager over there. Wow, big coincidence, right? You got to know somebody to get this job. And my manager happens to be best friends with the manager at Hot Topic. So I'm working there for like 3 months. She said, you know, if they got an opening or anything, I'll tell her. Sure enough, an opening came out, she told her, and I started working there part-time, and I'm working both jobs. And to me, that was like God showing me a miracle. Like, I was praying for this, and God gave me this job, and I recognized where it came from. I put a Post-it note on my mirror that said, God gave me the job at Hot Topic, thank you, Jesus. And God's like relating to me in a way that's so personal to me, you know. He doesn't, I'm sure he doesn't like my piercings, but he's like, I got to reach this guy. And so he's like, you know, I got to show him something. Doug Batchelor has part of his testimony that proved God was true to him was, you know, he stole something that was like 99 cents, and then something was stolen from him that was 99 cents, you know, and it was just like karma or whatever. He just believed there's a God, you know. So I kind of relate to that. But yeah, I got this job, and I'm giving God the credit. I'm seeing prayers be answered, and I'm seeing that it's not like a miraculous genie. It's not something like you say a little prayer, oh, I wish I had a car, and open your eyes and it's there. Like, it's even more miraculous. Like, he's setting up all the events in life to happen before you even pray it. Like, he's like, all right, you're going to turn all these jobs down, but you're going to be the right person. And when I look back on every situation in my life, I'm like, even the most hated situations, I'm like, wow, if I would not have been in that situation, I wouldn't have met that person who introduced me to this person. Like, I mean, if you're in a car wreck and you happen to meet somebody, it's just crazy how God sets it up like a chain reaction. And he works through the natural. And it's not just like this materialization. And I started seeing that God was real. And when I started reading Genesis, I started reading the Bible, and just Genesis alone was blowing my mind. I was like, I never heard this stuff in church. And it made me realize that there's more to God than just church and what I had been spoon-fed. I needed to seek this stuff out for myself. And so I was like being drawn to God. And even to the point where I almost quit Hot Topic because I was working both jobs and they weren't paying enough. And Hot Topic surely didn't pay enough, so I was about to quit it. And my very last day there, I put in my 2 weeks notice. My last day there, just so happened the district manager came, and everybody was telling me bye. He's like, well, where are you going? I said, well, I can't work 2 jobs, you know. And he said, why don't you just work 1 day a week or something? I was like, nobody offered me that. I'll do that. And then like a week later, I became the the assistant manager and got to work full time. It was just like these little things, like these close calls where God would just slip in at the last minute. And that's how I see God work all the time. Anytime I'm praying for something and these doubts are coming up, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to make rent or whatever. Like the day of, that's when somebody's like, hey, can I buy 10 t-shirts from you or whatever. And it's just like, it's always, and even this last time I was praying for a trip we were going on and we had financial things, I was praying to God, I was like, God, don't do it last minute like you always do. Just give us some help. And, at the last minute, he came through. It's just how he works. I think he's proving to you, this is me. There's nothing you could have done to make this happen.
That's true.
So I got this dream job of mine, and I'm believing in God, but my lifestyle just doesn't fit Christianity. And I'm like, I can't become a Christian yet. Like I'm partying. I'll do it one day, Lord. On my deathbed or something, I'll invite you in my life. And then, you can't gamble with life. You don't know if you're gonna have the next breath. We're like trusting on these organs like a car part. When your car blows a head gasket, you don't expect it. We could have a heart attack at any moment. You can't just gamble with life. But God was drawing me and dealing with me, and I was kind of becoming real popular and stuff. And my phone was like, because when I worked at Hot Topic, like I was telling you, all these kids look up to you and stuff. And so I was invited to all the parties. I started this clothing line called Execute Clothing. And people were kind of recognizing me for that. And so at work, my phone would be blowing up. And I'd have like 3 people ask me if I want to come somewhere. And I'm just like, I'll choose where I want to go. And I never had a night to just be home and reflect on anything. I was always distracted. Parties, parties, parties. And one particular night, everybody had other plans. I guess they were hanging out with a girl or whatever, so I was just home alone. And I went home and I was like, man, sometimes I felt overwhelmed with friends, but this time I felt like I just wish I could find something to do. And this is the raw, honest truth. I took advantage of the situation and I just rolled up a blunt. I'm talking marijuana. I rolled it up. I'm smoking it and watching The Simpsons, and that's how I'm wasting this night away. And God is dealing with me. Like, I feel this urge where God's like saying, why don't you pray? And I was like, I don't feel like praying. I just had a long day at work. I just want to sit back and relax. And then it was like an eye-opening revelation right then. It was like, you're seeking for God. You're looking for truth. And he says, maybe you should pray. And you say, no, I don't want to. And I was like, wow, I'm like rejecting God right now. I'm trying to find him, and I'm actually getting this little relationship. He's coming to me in the dirtiest position. I mean, I'm sitting here getting high, and he's saying, why don't you pray? Why don't you connect with me? You're alone. I can finally talk to you. You're not surrounded by a bunch of friends. And so I felt led, so I hit mute. I just bowed my head, and I was like, Lord, I don't know what you want me to pray about, but I just thought of anything I could pray for. I'm praying for friends that are in trouble. And during this prayer, I feel like God says, this is your moment. And I just opened my eyes. I was like, that must not have been God. That was some random thought that passed my mind. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to become this Christian person. My lifestyle, I'm a party animal. I go to parties, and I'm not ready for that. And then that eye-opening revelation hit me again. Man, now you are rejecting God. He's saying that this is your moment, and you're saying no. And I forgot to mention, my mom's testimony plays a role in this too. I would always hear my mom tell her testimony, and it was a joyous thing to her. She get to share her testimony because all her life she had just been afraid of dying and burning in hell, and so she would just say these little prayers at night, like, "Oh Lord, save me so I don't have to burn in hell." Like it wasn't about loving God or anything, It was just a fear tactic. And growing up, she realized that none of that was real, and she wanted to believe with her heart instead of her head. She wanted to know, how do you believe with your heart? And one day, my uncle was just reading Bible verses, and he came to believe in all things are possible, to him to believe it. She probably heard that verse before, and it probably just went over her head, but God used that verse to unlock what she needed, and it was like God gave her these visions of a dictionary flopping down, and showed her, like, she could see where the column was, and it said believe, and it told her how to believe, and she's like, I can believe. And this was her testimony verse. It's believe in all things are possible. And she would always share it. It was a joy to her to get to share this testimony with people. And when I was like this, and I heard her get to share her testimony, I'd just be like, oh, here we go again. Believing all things are possible. It would literally make my skin crawl, and I'd want to leave the room. And now I look back on like, that is the power of God. That's the power of the Word. Like, when you're like this stuff makes your skin crawl. That should have been proof to me back then. Like, nothing. If somebody was talking about something you didn't have any interest in, you could ignore it. But this stuff makes your skin crawl. And that's, our flesh is at enmity with God. And that's where I was. And so here I am alone in my apartment, praying to God because I felt led to. He's telling me it's my moment, and I'm rejecting him again, running away. And then all of a sudden it was like, all this stuff made sense to me. It was all coming together. I'm like, I'm running from God. I'm running away. He is coming to me. I don't have to clean myself up to come to him. He's like coming to me. And at that moment, I surrendered to God. I said, Lord, I know you're real. I know you've proven yourself to me. I trust this Bible. I've seen you answer prayers. Lord, just come into my life and change me. And I surrendered to the creator of the universe. And it wasn't forced upon me. It wasn't some kind of scare tactic. I wasn't listening to some emotional sermon at church that made me act. I was at home alone. God was dealing with me alone in my own house. And so that was the moment when I accepted him. And, as Christians, it's a growing process. It's a growth. And I was a baby Christian, so I was not living like I was supposed to. I was still partying. I was still drinking and smoking every day, but now I had this belief and acceptance of God, and I would pray to him, and I'd see him answer things in my life. And I really feel like, I think sometimes people might accept Christianity early in life, and then later they might look back and be like, I wonder if I was missing out. I wonder what would have happened if I would have tried to fulfill my dream, try to become a celebrity or whatever. And they might kind of have some kind of regret and maybe even leave Christianity to try and pursue that. Well, for 8 years as a professing Christian, I was still this party animal guy. And I didn't try to, I felt like if I shared it, I was going to be forcing it on people. So I didn't really even talk about it unless in some drinking conversation God got brought up and I'd say, hey, let me tell you what happened to me. But in this growth, I had started this rap project with a friend of mine, and it was starting to get big. Like I was saying, I had a clothing line already, and I had models in California and Australia and Spain, and like bands and models from all over the world literally wearing this clothing line. And now we're doing this rap project, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Soulja Boy, but his clique was wearing my clothes, and me and my friend, and I felt like God was just opening all these doorways. To me, I felt like it was God because it looked so supernatural that these people were starting to recognize us. We would drink this nasty beer, and they were starting to give us this beer. So I was like, wow, we're getting sponsorships. And then we went to California and had a music video shot, and the guy shooting it was, he had done work on a Green Mile and all these reality shows on MTV, and like the whole thing, like it was all happening. We were at a mansion in California, and with girls and like, people doing wardrobe. It was like the real thing happening. And when I left there in the airport, I just happened to see this guy. He was wearing all these clothes. There was the record label for this Soulja Boy guy I was telling you about. And I was like, hey, you know about SOD Money Gang? He was like, yeah, I'm the manager. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I started showing him pictures of his guys wearing my clothing line and showing the video we were on. And he's like, whoa, y'all doing it big? And I was just like, man, dude did a promo video with me at the airport. I mean, this guy's like big time in the celebrity world, and he's sitting there like telling me he's impressed with what I'm doing, and he's doing a promo video with me at the airport. And I'm just like, wow, God's really like opening all the doors for me. And then God just rocked me, man. Like, I got in December 2011, like I just had this eye-opening revelation. It had been from God because I was just drunk and high all the time. I wasn't paying attention. But I used to hear people try to say, oh, Harry Potter's pushing witchcraft and all this stuff. I'm like, man, it's a kid's book, man. Let these kids imagine. I did not see it. I had blinders on. And for some reason, in December 2011, I mean, God gave me this revelation that stood me out of my seat. And I was just like, whoa, the blinders fell off. I saw through all of this deception. I was like, there's so much stuff going on that nobody even has a clue about. And like New World Order and stuff. And I was starting to look in. To me, this was making the book of Revelation look realistic. I'm like, wow, it's really happening. But every time I'd share it with a Christian, they're like, that's conspiracy theories. And I'm like, how do you think? You guys are saying we're in the last days and you don't even see it happening. And I found this book. I was working at the valet and I found a book. So I'm a big person for, books and tracts and material stuff because literature is what I was looking for. I found this book called A Great Hope at Memorial Hospital, and I could not put it down. I'm not a reader, but this thing was small enough, and the first page said, why is there suffering? I was like, that's the kind of tough questions that I want answers to. And so I was reading it, I could not put it down. I mean, I'm walking to cars at the valet reading this book, and I had a friend of mine that would always try to give me tracts. Here, share this with somebody if you guys talk about spiritual things. And I was like, yeah, never going to happen. But I saw this book and I was like, if I'm going to share anything with anybody, it's this book. I went online and looked up how I could order 30 of them. If you don't know what The Great Hope is, it's like The Great Controversy, kind of condensed down. I'm glad I found The Great Hope and not The Great Controversy because it's so intimidating. I wouldn't have ever read it. Like, wow, it's a big book. But this was like, and I've heard people say, you shouldn't pass out Great Hope because it's only little parts, but it's a helpful book. It inspired me. So I looked online how to order 30 of them. And I guess while I did that, I must have clicked, yes, I'd be interested in Bible studies because somebody knocked on my door. And thank God for those people as well. Because I answered the door with a beer in my hand, and this guy's with a shining smile on his face. Hey, would you be interested in doing some Bible studies? And I was like, are you an angel, man? Like, he goes, I don't know, maybe. But I answered the door, like I said, I answered the door with a beer in my hand, and I'm like, I start talking to him. I'm personable. I was just making conversation with him. But then I decided to drop what I do on all the Christians. You ever heard of New World Order, man? And he's like, pulls out a flyer out of his pocket. He's like, man, you should come to this event. And I look, the first word on it says New World Order. Get in here, dude. We need to talk. And I'm telling you, God is awesome like that. He's going to reach you, man. Like, whatever, he's so personal, man. Like, he's so personal that he is going to reach you just where you're at. And that was where I was at. But like I'm telling you, this is a long growth. I accepted Christ, and then but I had this eye-opening revelation. And I was still trying to go to California and do this rap thing. Even after I saw all this revelation, I was like, man, I'm going to go out there. People are going to look up to me for this clothing line and this rap group, and then I'm going to drop it on them. Like Ivor Myers was throwing out great controversies at his concerts. That was what I was going to do. And but he also left his dream. So here I was. This guy is coming to my house doing Bible studies, and I don't even have furniture because it's all moved in storage. I'm literally about to move to California. Like, I have the money. I got like a couple $1,000s saved up. And I did a minor wreck to my dad's van. It wasn't, literally, he was in the car with me. It was seriously just something minor. I was just trying to back up at a gas station, and I nudged this little yellow pole, but it like knocked his axle out of whack. He was driving sideways down the road. And I was still going to go to California and leave his truck, leave his van all messed up like that. But he called me and was like, that axle just snapped. I almost had a wreck. And so I was like, well, I'm going to pay for it. I got the money. So that was, I don't know, a couple of hundred at least. So there was a chunk out of that money that I was supposed to go to California. And then I did something really dumb and got drunk at my house while some brand new neighbors I met wanted to fix the brakes on my car. So I was like, I'll buy you guys a beer. That wouldn't take money. So I ended up getting drunk, blackout, and this new guy who I let in my house decided to rummage through my room and found the thousands of dollars, and he took it. So, I was like, God, I get it. I learned the lesson. Don't get drunk. Don't trust strangers. And I guess you don't want me to go to California either. Because all this stuff is happening. I'm in my parents' van and this thing. So I really was going to, my friend was already out there, my rap partner, and I called him. I was praying too. I was like, God, help him to understand this situation. And And he was already kind of like calling me, man, you need to get out here, I'm already out here. And I was just dreading this call. But I prayed that prayer and I called him, he goes, man, you know, I understand it, it's all good, you know, maybe next year or something. I was just in disbelief that he accepted it so well, it had to have been that prayer. So here I am now, all my plans are changing, and but it wasn't like my dreams were crumbling. Like I was still, everything was, to me, my dreams were happening. Like I was seeing sponsorship and these people wearing this, wearing my clothesline and all this stuff. And it was like, God, let me get to the point where he said, now look, you see that this dream can become a reality. Like you're getting a taste of it, you can see it. Now, that's your dream, that's what you want for your life, but I want something different for your life.
Yeah.
You want to drop it all and follow me. Just like when we went to the fishermen and said, drop it all and follow me. And they did. They dropped the nets and they followed me. And that's where I was. You know, it wasn't like I lost everything. I came crawling back to God. Well, God, you're all I got left. Like I was seeing things happen. Like I was becoming at least locally famous and like stuff was happening. And I had to call my friend and tell him, you know, I don't think I can do this anymore and stuff, you know. Because he was still wanting me to do shows and stuff. And I was just like, man, lots changing in my life. So 2013, New Year's 2013, a little bit before that, I was starting to be convicted about my lifestyle because of the Word. It wasn't going to church, it was studying the Word. I was like, wow. And nobody had to make me feel guilty. They didn't have to guilt trip me because the Word that I believed and trusted was showing me truth. And I was starting to see things like errors that I was taught in certain churches too. And I was like, I can't see that in the Bible, you know. And so I'm being convicted about my lifestyle. I'm living with my now wife. We were living together. Our lifestyle is just drinking and smoking every day. And so I start trying to cut back. Well, I'll cut back, you know. I won't do it today. The very day I say that, somebody knocks on my door I haven't seen in months. Hey, dude, I got a six-pack. Come on in. And I'm like, no, I'm trying not to. And then I was like, well, I didn't pay for it or whatever. I start making excuses and rationalizing. I'm telling you, every time I tried in my own strength, I would fail. Every time. And I was trying to cut back. And that's what I'm trying to tell people now. You can't, when you say cut back, that means you're holding on. You have to surrender. This is, you know, I'm trying to start a Christ-centered recovery program, and that's the message, is total surrender. And I have addicts hit me up frequently on Facebook, and that's what I tell them. I'm like, they say, you know, how'd you do it? I want to do what you did. Surrender it all. Don't hold on. Don't cut back. Don't wean yourself off. Like, surrender it to God, and He'll take it. He's not a thief. He's not going to steal something from you that you're cherishing. And I tell people, you have to be at the point where you are disgusted by this stuff. You don't want it in your life anymore because you see what it's doing to your life and the people around you. So I was at that point. New Year's 2013, my New Year's resolution was to God. I told God, I said, I'm done with this stuff. I'm done with these mind-altering chemicals. I don't want the alcohol. I don't want the weed. I already became vegetarian. I was trying to make all these healthy lifestyle choices, but I said, God, I need your help. I cannot do it. Every time I try, I fail. So God, I'm surrendering it to you, and now it's in your hands. You got to take it from me, and I'm giving you permission, and I'm asking you to give me strength. I woke up the next day without a single withdrawal. Like, this was supernatural, because any day that I tried to not do it, I'd be feeling nauseous until I got my alcohol. I'd be feeling irritable until I could get my weed, and I was like, spent the whole day looking for it. People say it's not addictive. You might not have like tremors and DTs, but when you spend the whole day looking for it and you're irritable, it's addictive, whether it's psychological or whatever. But another thing that I was dealing with was I was starting to hear about, you know, piercings. I had all these piercings, and I was hearing that, you know, maybe God didn't want me to have them. And I was like, these things are rubber. I mean, I finally narrowed down everything to just these little rubber discs in my ear here, about the size of a bottle cap. And I was like, it's not like I'm putting them in every day thinking, oh, I'm something. I got gold in my ear. They're like black rubber. So I was kind of like not really accepting that message. But the day I surrendered everything, that night, I woke up and both these plugs were out of my ears. Every once in a while, one might fall out. But I woke up the day I surrendered and was free from addiction, and these things were missing out of my ears. And I was just like frantically looking at the couch looking for these things. And I finally found them. I'm looking at them. I'm like, I was just searching for these things like they were gold. They might not be gold, but I was frantically looking for them. I was like, I'm just going to take this as a sign, God. I'm not going to put them back in. And so a lot changed during that. And I never experienced spiritual warfare before because I was living like the world. Satan's not trying to go after people who are playing around in his camp. He's after the Christians. Those are the ones that are a threat to him. So after this surrender, that's when I started experiencing real spiritual warfare. I'm talking like waking up at 3 in the morning, terrified to open my eyes because I just feel the presence of evil all around me. And I just start praying spiritual warfare prayer, putting on the full armor of God, and it flees instantly at the name of Jesus. You know, Satan's trying to test you, and he can mess with you if you don't know what to do, you know. But if you know to pray spiritual warfare, he has to leave, and he's just seeing who he can attack and who he can try to get one over on. And you know, when you surrender to God, when you start living for Him, be ready to experience that kind of attack. You know, I have a friend right now who he was in the gang lives and a drug dealer and all this stuff, and he went to jail or prison, I don't know, but he was in there for a while, and he started studying the Bible and learned about the Sabbath and different things, and when he got out, we started going to church together, and we became real close friends. I met him through Facebook. We were friends for like 6 months, and this dude was on fire, man. I mean, almost like a Pharisee. I'd have to pull him back sometimes, like, hold on, man, people aren't ready for that. You know? Ease up on people, man. But that's like 3 weeks ago, we were going to start this recovery program together, and he was on fire about it. And there's like 4 leaders, so it's like me, this guy, and 2 other people, and we knew. When we try to make this recovery program happen, there's going to be spiritual attacks. And Satan's trying everything he can, because I don't know if you guys know it, but there's people struggling with addiction out there. Like, it's bad. This is an epidemic, and if we just stay in the church, we're not really going to see a lot of it. But this month was 5.5 years of sobriety for me, and every 6 months I post about it on Facebook, and I tell people that it's God's strength that helps you, and I tell them that you have to surrender. And every time I do that, I mean, sometimes I think, maybe it's not doing anything, but every time I do it, somebody reaches out to me and says, I'm struggling, and it was your post, you know. And even this past time, I posted it like 2 days late. I tried to do it right on the 6-month mark, and this lady hit me up, and she said, you posted this at the right time because I'm dealing with this, and I got drunk and made a fool of myself yesterday. And she's an Adventist, and she's like, I think in another country even. And that's what's awesome about technology, you know. You can use it for good or evil, but it's a platform to reach people. And like I said, I had accidentally not posted it on time, but it was the perfect time for her. So it was God, you know, working the details out like that. Yeah. But this friend I'm talking about, we were down to like 2 weeks as the recovery program was supposed to start. And this guy just totally relapses and denounces God, and I don't get to talk to him for like 2 weeks, and I finally talked to him, and he tells me, you know, I just don't think, he said, I can't say there's no God. I've already seen too much evidence, prophecy and all this stuff. I can't say there's no God, but why would I want to worship a God who lets all this bad stuff happen to me? My girlfriend left me, a friend of mine got killed, you know, all this stuff is coming on. I was like, and he said, man, I'm sitting here living for God. I'm out there giving out Bibles and Bible studies and giving out tracts and witnessing to people. Why is he gonna let this stuff happen to me? And I was like, dude, that's when it's gonna happen to you, man. I was like, when you were living for Satan, he ain't gonna mess with you. But when you start living for God, that's when you're gonna be attacked, big time. This is a war, man. And I said, and I started thinking, I was like, you know, why does God get all the credit? They say, they give God the credit for the good things in life, but then something bad happens, and well, that's God's fault too. When does Satan get the credit?
Yeah.
You know, we do have an enemy.
Yeah.
And I was trying to share this with this guy. I was like, dude, you got to realize that this isn't God's fault. He gives us free will. And to be honest, your friend was wrapped up in stuff he shouldn't have been. Gangs and drug deals and stuff. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but he kind of had it coming to him, you know? And you can't blame God for sure. So there's definitely addiction is a huge thing right now, and I feel like I lost my best friend to a drug, and we were about to start something big and really help these people, so that's kind of been postponed. But yeah, to move a little further, when I surrendered everything to God, what I thought was my dreams, I truly wanted to live for God. I was like, if this isn't what you have for me, I thought God was opening all these doors, but remember, Satan was the one that offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world, and he could have easily been opening those doors, and I think God was kind of just allowing it so he could, because he knew my personality. If I would just surrender everything, and it had always been in the back of my mind, what if I would have took this other way and tried to become a rap star or whatever. So he told me, once I got so close, it's up to you, you want to live for me. So my desires totally changed. Now I want to do everything, use my talents for God, and my talents were, I had this clothing line that a lot of people were buying, so then I started trying to make these Christian t-shirts, and now nobody wants to buy them, because this was like people in the world. And so I'm like, well, I'm trying to use my talents for you, but it's not really succeeding. And this same guy that came to my house and was doing Bible studies with me knew I was kind of like conspiracy theorist minded or whatever. So he was like, here, I think you'd like these guys. And he gave me 2 DVDs by Little Light Studios. And man, they were talking about everything that I was seeing. If I would have got these DVDs a year ago, I would have just probably shut it off and never watched it again, because I was like, there they are trying to bash Harry Potter again or whatever. But God's the perfect gardener. He's been, getting that soil ready and the whole time during the winter, and then the harvest time comes, or when planting season comes, he just shoves that seed right in there, and then it's up to you. Some receive it, some don't. My heart was ready, and I was just really intrigued by this Little Light Ministries, and they were in California. But even at work, I ran into this guy. He goes, "Oh, I know those guys. I got their number. Why don't you call them?" I was like, "What am I going to talk to them about?" But I did, and I talked to one of the guys and was just sharing my testimony with him, and he's like, "Well, we're in California, but we do want to do like testimony videos." So he said, "I got family in Collegedale. Maybe sometime I'll come over and we'll record your testimony." That was years ago, and it never happened. But I got invited to play a part on this It Is Written commercial from a friend of mine, and found out that Little Light was filming it. And I was like, "Whoa, you guys are here?" And he said, "Yeah, we moved here about a year ago." And I was just like, "Man, that's awesome." Now I'm like thinking, man, it'd be awesome to work for them. But I knew they already had everything going. I'm like, I see the products they put out, like, what can I offer them? They obviously have a graphic designer and film editing and all that, so, but I was still talking with them and stuff. And then they invited me to do a little Bible study, a video Bible study segment. And while I was there, I just kind of jokingly said, "Don't you guys want to start printing t-shirts?" And this guy was just like, "Yeah, can your machine fit here?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm serious." So, God gave me a gift that these guys were kind of interested in, and so I came over and I started just like 2 days a week printing some t-shirts out of there, and it just started growing, and they offered me to like start working full time, and I was just like, wow, we really don't pray big enough for God, I never even prayed the prayer that I wish I could work for, or I pray that I could work for Little Light. It just seemed too big to even think about, but God knew my desires. And the way I see it is, God moved a ministry all the way across the country, prevented me from moving to California. Remember, I was about to be in California. When I tell Scotty, he was like, "Yeah, we were over there then," but they were about to leave. So God prevented me from going there, I think. I got robbed and money, but I think it was God's prevention kept me from going to California, and they moved all the way here, and then I actually had something to offer them that they were into, and so I just give God all the glory and honor and praise for that. And He answers big prayers. We need to start praying big to God, and that's basically my story. But to get back to the necklace story, the next day the dad went up there to his daughter, and she's just sitting Indian style in her bed now, and she's just crying. He's like, "What's wrong, baby?" And she opened her hand, and she had the pearl necklace in her hand. And she goes, "Here, Daddy, I really do love you. I want you to have my necklace. And he took it and he pulled out a genuine pearl necklace, the real deal, and he gave it to her. And that's a picture of what God has. You know, I'm sitting there holding on to this dream. No, I want to be a rap star or whatever. And God's like, you can surrender that to me, and I have something better. I got the genuine pearls, you know. And I just totally, I heard that story literally 2 days ago, and I was like, I totally relate to that, you know. And I also wanted to share one verse. It might seem out of place, but it really shows me the love of God. Like, he's the hound of heaven. He's going after the most filthiest people he wants them. He loves them all, and he just keeps trying. And I was blaspheming him in song. He should have turned his back on me a long time ago. And I pray to God all the time and thank him that he never gave up on me. And he kept trying. If you turn to James 5 through 7. It's James chapter 5, verses 5 through 7. I just read this recently, and you know, I know he died for us while we were yet still sinners. We hear that a lot, and we kind of get desensitized to it. But when I read this, it really just rocked me, man. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been wanton. Sounds like a Chinese word. And been wanton. I guess that means we're still wanting more. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. We killed Jesus. God sent his own son to come after us, teach us love and teach us the truth, and we killed him. We killed the just. And it says, and he doth not resist you. Like, he's looking at the people who murdered Christ and says, how can I win them? And Jesus is saying, Father, forgive them. Like, that is mind-blowing love. You can't even imagine it. It says, be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it until he receiveth the early and latter rain. People think Christ is hesitant and he's waiting too long to come back, and people are like, oh, you know, 2 Peter is saying that all the scoffers are like, where is he? Where's the coming of his promise? And we don't realize that the reason he's hesitant is because he wants as many people as he can.
Amen.
It's just like so back to the question I asked about why would God murder the whole world if he said, thou shalt not kill? God gave me the answer to that. It isn't because he's so meanie and he's like, oh, you don't bow to me, you all die. It was the grace of God that came down and saved Noah. The whole world was messed up. They were murderers and molesters and rapists, and God allowed it to get that far. And he looked and he remembered Noah and he said, I'm going to save him. And even when he went down there, he said, preach to these people for 100 years. Yeah. Noah was probably like, them, look at him. They look like this guy. 100 years, he gave people like that a chance. Mm-hmm. And it's not, you know, now I see the flip side. It's not that God's some, you know, bow or burn type God. He's coming down and rescuing the one righteous person and still giving these people a chance. Yeah. About this where it says that he's long patient, in Genesis 29:20 it says, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. Because it talks about Jesus being a husbandman and he's coming back for his bride. Genesis 29:20 says, and Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had for her. Sometimes one day at work seems like eternity to me. This guy worked 7 years for a woman that he loved so much, it seemed like a few days. That's Christ. Because in 2 Peter 3, it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking in their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all continue as they were, and from the beginning of creation. And it says, but beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years. That's a parallel here. This is just like Jacob working 7 years for this chick, and it felt like a few days. So a day is 1,000 years unto the Lord, or 1,000 years is to the day. And the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, and all should come to repentance.
Yeah.
So that just shows how long suffering and amazing God's love is, and you know, it might feel like it's taking forever, but there's people out there that need to hear the truth, and we are the ones that are supposed to be out there spreading these seeds, just like that book I found, just like my mom's prayers, just like every little seed that was planted in my life along the way. And I just thank God that he never gave up on me, and there's people out there that we need to reach. So
Amen, brother.
I pray that just reached at least one person. I thank you guys for your time.
Yeah.
Amen.